Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge. Welcome to Eldridge and Company. A year ago, Luke Hayes came here thrilled with having worked in a winning political campaign in the state of Virginia. But things changed quickly and surprisingly. Today he's here, he's more experienced and a little bruised, and I want to know if he's going to be here next year with the same enthusiasm and determination.
Well, I hope so. Thank you for having me back.
You're welcome. So you worked in Virginia Beach area.
That's correct.
On a congressional campaign, essentially.
Yes, Phil Kellum, he was running against freshman Congresswoman Thelma Drake, and it was...
Why is her name familiar to public? Did she achieve some notoriety?
She did. Early on in April, Move On spotted 5 Republicans that they really wanted to go after aggressively for their ties to,
right.
Dick Cheney and various, nefarious business groups.
So she was right there.
Yes, and that kind of put the congressional race in this early spotlight. It was a district where 58% had voted for Bush in 2004, so they didn't expect anything to really happen down there. But I think the, national conditions and Move On really helped create a excitement.
Right. Are you affiliated with Move On? I mean, have you ever worked with them?
No, the 527 laws, we had no coordination, so
that's because they're a separate thing and they
Exactly.
can't be allied with a political candidate.
Exactly.
But they were in the district? Did they send volunteers? Did they do phone calling?
There were phone banks. We didn't know about it. It was one of those...
So interesting. And you really didn't know about it?
No, it was a little frustrating for us because sometimes we'd hear about a commercial or something they had done, after the fact, and we'd get a call to campaigns like, "What are you doing about it?" It's like, wait, what happened?
And they could have called the same people too.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a lack of coordination.
Yeah.
So, but do you think Move On? I mean, as long as we got off on this tangent of Move On, is that a good thing? The way they're operating?
I think so. I think they can offer constructive ways to help out, candidates.
Right. And when they recruit volunteers to go into a state, they go on for Move On, not for you.
That's correct.
They can't affiliate. So what happened in your race?
We came close, but sometimes you can't win them all.
What did she win by last time?
She won 55-45. She was actually only a candidate for 60 days. The previous congresswoman had dropped out, and so she stood in for him, and it was 55-45. And this time we lost about 51-49.
So it was really close.
Yeah.
Did he run last time?
No, he was Commissioner of Revenue for the city of Virginia Beach, and was a family name. His uncle, Sidney Kellum, was part of the bird machine in the 50s and 60s of Virginia, and actually kind of what helped bring about the downfall of the Kellum machine in Virginia Beach was he actually integrated Virginia Beach in the 60s, which wasn't too popular with the bird machine and locals.
So that was it.
Yeah.
So what is the makeup of the district?
It's very high military. That's one of the things that a lot of people were interested in. 27% of the households either were active military, or retired. So 1 in 4 people you're going to, had a really immediate connection to the military, and that was what a lot of people focused on because such a high military population, and yet it was a very competitive race.
So when you say people focused on the military, how did Iraq come into that? What was the reaction, and were they split on their...
There wasn't quite as much, I think nationally there's definitely a strong push against Iraq and kind of a regret, but in the military culture down there, there's a little bit of hesitancy to out and out just say it was a complete failure, since so many people had sent loved ones there to nobly fight for what they thought was a good cause, and to kind of just have them come back and say, well, we made a mistake. Tough luck. It was
right. But you really can't tell. I mean, what you're saying is nobody would publicly say so. They had
right.
Yeah.
Right.
And what was your candidate's position on Iraq?
He was frustrated with kind of how it was carried out. He, it's one of those. Some of the after effects were, Saddam was gone, but at the same time, he was, wondering where was all this money going? Why were we sending all these troops? What was the plan for when we got out of there, and was there a plan to get out of there? And he was just frustrated with, the hypothetical of should we have gone in didn't really matter at that point. He was like, we're there, we got to figure out a way to figure it out.
So you're in politics as an idealistic young person, right?
Sure.
With a progressive viewpoint.
Yeah.
How does it work when you work for a candidate that isn't as progressive as you?
It's definitely like an internal struggle. But at the same time, it's one of those, progress is slow. And you kind of look at the environment where you are. It's, if my candidate was running New York City and it was, the same positions, it'd be a little out of place. But, a Democrat, running competitively in Virginia, I think is symbolic to show that, Democrats can win. There is, an appeal to people to.
Well, and you were also talking about the control of the legislature, right? Which is an overriding issue.
Yeah.
I found that whenever I worked for candidates, I was usually further out than the candidate, and it's a very useful role. I mean, we need people like that in campaigns to counter the people who are saying, "Don't open your mouth." Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that happens a lot. Were there political consultants involved in this campaign?
There were, and it was kind of, there's always kind of a back and forth between kind of what we were hearing and feeling on the ground and what the DC consultants were saying, and it's always a back and forth. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, but there's always kind of.
Was it a discussion, or did they always prevail?
No, on certain issues they prevail, but there was, it wasn't just do this and that was it. There was definitely kind of a give and take.
You did the field operation?
Yes, I was.
So what does that mean, actually?
I joke that it's a giant pyramid scheme, but basically you look at a district and want to see, how many votes do I need, how many, voters do I need to contact in order to get my candidate to win? And it's, How do
you figure that out?
A combination of factors. You kind of look at past presidential elections and other elections to see what your base is. So, if John Kerry got 44% in the district, that 44% of the district will vote for a Democrat no matter what, will vote this, or rather 42. And then you need to see, I need to make up that 9%. I need to make up
the 51.
Right. And so you kind of look at, where are these people that, might vote Democrat, might vote Republican, but just need maybe a hard sell, need, someone to come to their door, talk to them about the candidate, or make a phone call.
And so then you've got canvassers who go to a door. And they then come back with a report?
They do. It's a quick questionnaire, and usually, have you thought about who you're voting for in Congress or the Senate? If there's an issue that's really important to you that you'd like to see addressed, and finally, if there's a party you identify with or vote for. And kind of from those three questions, we can, extrapolate, well, person A is undecided, independent, and, education's their number one issue. We can go back a month later with the canvasser, keeping that in mind, being, hey, well, Phil Kellum's stance is this on education, or, so forth. So.
And then you've got a list of favorables and then unfavorables, who you never bother with.
Right.
That's always something that we're lacking in the city, isn't it? The inability to contact. When I started in politics, I used to ring a doorbell. You'd go into a building, nobody ever stopped you. You'd ring the doorbell. You'd have a piece of literature because they didn't have television.
Right.
You'd hand it. You'd tell them about your candidate, and you had a real relationship. Of course, that was the foundation of the Tammany organization in New York. Right. So now in New York, you can't get into a building. You have to run away from the doorman and the superintendents and everything else. So it's all direct mail.
Right.
And that's what they attempt to do, except that direct mail all arrives, on the same day, and everybody's got it.
Yeah, the direct mail,
everybody throws away.
In our district, there was, for a month, literally every day, there was some piece of mail either attacking us or for the congresswoman. And it does, it's you can never say one single thing influences voter more than anything else. So it's a combination of factors. But, if you get 30 pieces of mail in, a month or so, whether you ignore it or not, you start to kind of just, oh, well, he's for this, and
Did you? How many canvassers did you have working?
It fluctuated. In the summer, we had about 6 or 7, I want to say.
That's all.
And then it kind of went down to about 4 or so in August, and then after Labor Day, we built it up quite a bit.
Did you get a lot of volunteers?
Yeah, there was it was
a walk-in.
It was walk-in because the Webb and the Kellum campaigns were both going on. We coordinated, so volunteers, if they couldn't get to our office, they go to the Webb, or Webb and go to Kellum.
And you each had each other's literature?
Yes,
right.
We had each other's literature.
Did they stand on corners with the signs in Virginia?
We didn't quite do that. We did put up, 4x8 signs, 4 feet by 8
lawn
foot.
Signs?
Yeah, quite a bit of those. Virginians definitely
like
to see their candidate out and about.
Don't you think that's an important ingredient in politics?
It is. It's frustrating from a field perspective because you get a lot of volunteers coming to the office saying they won't make a call or knock on their neighbor's door, but they say they want a yard sign, And at the end of the day, yard sign doesn't vote, but it does help create a,
It's an atmosphere and an excitement on the street,
Right.
and a reminder that you have an election and a
Right,
pull at your heart. In Puerto Rico, they got flags that they put on the cars, and the lawn signs, and we don't have that in the city either. When I had kids, I used to put the bumper stickers on the strollers.
Oh, okay.
I just think that street excitement is really important.
It does help. It does.
Because people tend to be distanced from the campaigns anyway with all the television.
Right, and that's where field really comes
Yeah.
in. We try to say, take the next step, and instead of just showing your neighbors you're for this candidate, why don't you go, talk to them while you're putting out the trash and say, just tell them why you like the candidate and why you think,
And did they have television ads too?
Yes, there was television ads from both campaigns and also independent expenditures. Move On, the Republican National Committee, Democrat Congressional Committee. So
those are all done separately. I mean, the Democratic National Committee, is that coordinated with your campaign?
To an extent, I think. I learned quite a bit about FEC rules this year, which are just very complicated and trying to keep track of them. So I don't know the entirety of how the media coordination works, but I do know that there's all these kind of weird walls and what you can and can't do, which is very finite. And
I always want people to know how campaigns are run, because I think that's the great mystery. And nowadays we have stars that are these political consultants,
right.
but we don't really know the nitty-gritty part of it. So you're a field director. Mm-hmm. You've got people who are designing television commercials.
Right.
You've got money. You've got to worry about how you apportion the money in the campaign, about the literature that gets designed. Do you sit in on the planning meetings where those plans are made?
To a certain extent. There's fundraising, there's field, and there's communications. And you always want to know what each other is doing, just to kind of stay on message. You always hear that a lot. And so, depending on if there's a fundraiser where it's, $1,000 a person at some nice restaurant, they're not going to ask field really for much, input.
Right.
But if there's maybe an email solicit going out to raise money maybe for a new commercial we're doing, field, we might have, new email addresses from our website or, things like that. So there's, when it's, you need interaction between one of the.
And you come back with a questionnaire about what issue is important.
Exactly. And so it's always, you kind of work in sync. Field, it's nice to go to a door and knock on someone's door and say, oh, I already gave money, because, that shows fundraisers and donors that their money's being put to good work. And, in communications, you kind of reinforce the commercials message of Phil comes for this, and then you get something in the mail or a phone call or someone at your door, reinforcing that, that message, and it, it adds up. So there's always.
Does it frustrate you that it's so hard to get people to vote?
Yeah, it's frustrating, but at the same time, I can understand there's always kind of a jaded.
It's amazing, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think it's because people don't understand how the government affects their lives?
To a certain extent, and I think Americans always have that kind of strong, kind of leave me alone streak. I think no matter how good a candidate may be or how many reforms you do, I always think there's going to be a portion of the population just will not get involved for a variety of reasons. They just can't be bothered, or they think it's all it's all the same.
When I walk down the street and somebody's handing out a menu or a fortune teller's I take them from everybody, because I know how horrible it is to be standing on the street and trying to give somebody a piece of literature and they just walk right past you as if you weren't there, right?
Yeah,
Awful.
We had mints, so that was kind of a little gimmick. At
Oh,
least,
so they wanted
if anything
them.
else, kids, you could kind of hand out the mint and kind of get the parents roped in.
So now you almost, did you know you were going to lose the campaign before election day? Or think you were going to lose?
It was really up in the air, to be honest. It was, there was polls all over the place, having her up 8, having us up 6, 1. So it's just going into election day really was.
But you had enough favorable voters.
We thought so.
That you thought you were going to win.
Yeah.
And did you have any way of knowing if they all voted?
It's hard to tell. In Virginia, one thing that's always makes it feel a little more difficult is you don't register by party. So as opposed to New York, where you can go to your house and be like, oh, well, Miss Eldridge, registered Democrat, votes in primaries.
Right.
In Virginia, if you don't vote in a Democrat-Republican primary, it's,
you have no clue.
Unless someone comes to your door, calls you on the phone, it's an unknown.
How do you vote in Virginia? What kind of a machine?
They have the touch screen.
A touch screen with any record?
I don't know, actually.
That's interesting.
It's I mean, I have to say it is efficient. It's very quick.
Yeah.
So.
And you think it's honest?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So now what are you going to do? You're still interested in politics?
Yeah.
Are you more interested or less interested, or
more
the same?
interested?
More interested.
I don't know if I'll be doing campaigns for the rest of my life. Campaigns definitely do put you through the ringer, but definitely want, it's like I said, progress is small steps, but I want to make sure that those small steps are taken.
Yeah.
And 2007 is a bit of an off year. It's gearing up for presidentials, but Virginia has a delegate and state senate races, so hope to help out with that.
You're going to stay. Now, who are you working for?
Right now I'm a DNC organizer, so I'm one of...
So you're a Democratic National Committee?
Yes. I'm one of the 50 state strategy.
And how many organizers do they have, do you know?
In Virginia, I know there are 3. And
But
there
I mean
may be,
around, totally?
I'd say upwards of 150, 200.
So this is, you referred to this as the 50-state
Right.
strategy. This is Howard Dean's strategy as the chairman, is to what?
Is to build up the Democratic Party in every state. That includes Wyoming, Mississippi, Virginia, places where traditionally Democrats have always kind of laid low.
And did they do that in the last elections?
Yes, they. I think Dean kind of helped initiate this kind of idea of like building up the Democratic Party. I know Governor Kane, one of his big goals running last year was to not just have a campaign where you get yourself elected, but kind of keep the infrastructure intact. Right. And that has been very helpful.
Governor Kane being the governor of Virginia.
Correct.
So there's a big controversy about the Dean strategy.
Yeah, yeah.
And let's talk about it. It's what, the House and the Senate campaign committees run by Chuck Schumer and Emanuel from Chicago, Illinois. And what they do is they raise money, they target races, and they raise money for those people they've targeted. Right. And they say that's more effective.
Yeah, they wanted more money invested from the DNC into commercials, and eventually there was a compromise worked out. I think at the end of the day, it's just there's so much uncertainty that I think it's understandable for both sides to be kind of fretting like we're not doing enough. But I think the end result was that the Senate was won, which I don't think people anticipated, and Congress was won by pretty overwhelming majority, and I think that'll help kind of heal the wounds. But I think the 50-state strategy is good just because, I think Democrats have been a little short term, and the 50-state strategy, I think, slowly but surely, we'll see the results, not immediately, but hopefully in 2012, there might be 3 or 4 states.
Or even a little bit in 2008.
I'm hoping Virginia.
We can hope for that, yeah. I think it's a great strategy, and I think the Democratic Party, by targeting and using these commercials and personalizing everything, has lost its party base.
Yeah. It's I think it's good just because there's I think Dr. Dean had said that it shows a sign of respect to come to someone's door and ask for their vote. Right. And in Virginia, I always liked it when you came to someone's door and said, "Oh, I haven't seen a Democrat since Lyndon Johnson." Right. And I was like, "Well, we're back." So.
And look at me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, somebody called me a man that I met in 1972 at the platform committee meeting. We were both on the platform committee. That was the year McGovern ran of the DNC, and he was representing Muskie. And I was representing Canada, was no longer a candidate, John Lindsay. But anyway, and we still talk to each other. He's from Maine. But in those days, the platform hearings and committee were so important because it was for the whole Democratic Party of the state, of the country, every state, and people really came in to fight for their positions. In the most recent years, I can't remember really hearing about platform hearings or what a platform of a party meant.
I feel like the platform is done more by a kind of drawn out consensus. Yeah. And kind of more back, instead of having 1 week of throwing it all together and seeing what happens, I think through a combination of more advanced polling and just
and talking to the major candidates and not wanting to embarrass anybody. So what I'm trying to say is that the Democrats, I hate to use the term of the grassroots, have lost their input. Because everything gets molded now to conform to what the candidate should be, and there's no give and take between what voters in a party. So I think it waters down the party's positions on stuff.
I think the grassroots did though on 2006.
I think definitely that's a show that they're coming back or coming in. They took everybody by surprise with their strong anti-war. All the polls nowadays. Taking all these commentators and all these so-called sophisticated people, totally backed by the strong
definitely.
figures, right?
Oh, definitely. And I also think a big kind of rebirth in the Democratic Party has been this economic populism.
Yeah.
Where it's, I think, the slander of calling someone a communist isn't quite as effective now because it's...
Nobody knows what it means.
Yeah, and
they never did know what it means.
Right, and nowadays, it's like 40 years removed from, those
Right.
kind of like whatever. And I think, people are saying, yeah, capitalism's fine, you work hard, whatever, but I think people are feeling more and more that they're working hard, they're not getting their fair shake.
Right.
And because of that, it's... I think people are really starting to say, well, maybe we should do something to.
Well, but what about all the play that the bonuses on Wall Street get? What do you think about that?
I mean, the idea that someone can make that much money is just, I can't even fathom it.
And what do they need the money for? So, tell me, you'll go and you'll organize for the delegates and for the House races. But you have to be drawn into questions about the presidential election.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely.
All right.
Definitely.
So what do we think about what's going to happen?
Well, last year I was a fan of Warner and still am, but he had, I think he's decided to take a pass on it.
Yeah.
He has young daughters. I'm only 23, so I don't quite understand the family pull, but, older people I'd spoken to had said they could understand the...
I think you have to be a little crazy to run for president.
Yeah. And I think he was, already running hard for a year
Yeah.
and just decided to let up. But I think it's exciting for 2008. I think there are a lot of qualified candidates, more so than there have been in the past. Obviously Hillary, but also I think, Edwards is really, again, with economic populism, really making poverty the focal point of his campaign. I think Barack Obama, definitely excites me about politics. I think he gets a lot of people kind of, hopeful again about American politics, which I think is a rarity these days.
Did he come to Virginia?
Yes, he was in Northern Virginia to help out with the Jim Webb campaign.
And how did that go, do you know?
Jim Webb had already had a bit of a cult following, so to speak, among the grassroots, and you combine that with Obama, and I remember seeing a clip of a rally they had in Alexandria, and it was just absolutely packed. And
isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
What does he do for you?
He just, the charisma he exudes when he speaks. I've seen him in person, like when he came with Governor Kane.
Yeah.
And, there was about 3,000 people at a rally, and you could hear a pin drop fall. And I think that, it's intangible, but I think that's very powerful.
Well, you've heard a lot of candidates, so you've heard a lot of public officials speak. He speaks in a different way, doesn't he?
He does. He has his own...
What does he do?
Like they always say, he makes it feel like he's speaking directly to you. Yeah. And you can't put your finger on it, but he definitely, he comes across
You don't
as,
get the bureaucratic language.
Yes, that's true.
And you don't get these long political or governmental explanations. He brings it to issues to ways that you can personalize it.
Exactly.
Right. Did you see the film Bobby?
I haven't.
But you've seen footage of Bobby Kennedy.
I have. I think there's still a bit of a similar phenomenon that people just, want to believe in.
Yeah, I had that feeling when I saw the movie, and you see all the film clips of Robert Kennedy and going through Watts and California, all over, being mobbed, that it was a legend, of course. It's hard to compare Kennedy to Obama, but there's that personal something that people really want to see and hope, I guess.
Oh yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is he presents an optimism.
So we talk about optimism and hope, and yet most of the television commercials were all negative commercials.
Yeah, they work.
They do work.
That's
you
what
think
I've
they
learned
work?
in a year.
You personally have learned they work.
Yeah, it's no one wants to admit it. It's but at the end of the day, if you're told 2 times a day that your neighbor, is a drunk, and you hear that for 2 months, after a while, kind of plants a
What were the
seed of
negative
doubt.
commercials that you had in your district?
The usual Republican playbook of we're going to raise your taxes, just you can't trust us. Gay marriage was not an issue down there actually, but yeah, just kind of the standard Republican, can't be trusted, is incapable, tax.
Do you think political people underrate the American public or overrate them? What do you think?
My grandfather always said Americans always get the people they deserve.
That's what my husband says. They didn't come out against Bush, they deserve him.
Right.
And that's terrible.
But I think in 2006 you kind of saw Americans, I think, had been fed up with being kind of everything being whitewashed and told everything's fine, just go back to shopping at a mall. And I think Americans finally were kind of like, wait, we
have
this
enough.
is there's something bad going on over there and something bad going on over here. Let's start addressing that.
Will there be ethics questions in the Virginia races?
As far as there might be on a couple of delegates, but I don't think you'll see quite the anger and depth that you saw.
Was that important in your race?
It was. We definitely tag on with the national thing of Republicans, can't be trusted, they're corrupt,
And you had Alan running, who was such a perfect foil, right?
Yeah.
That was an incredible phenomenon to see that person be destroyed, basically.
It was. I remember, a poll came out in June or July, like quickly right after the primary, and Webb was actually polling lower than gay marriage in Virginia, and we were kind of like, well, he's really got quite a journey ahead of him. And then, Alan, said Bukaka, and he just never regained his footing. Yeah. I think people just kind of fed off of that.
It's a fascinating thing. Well, Luke, we've come to the end of this program,
okay.
So I hope you'll come back next year.
Oh, well,
and
I hope so too.
I would think that by that time you're going to be in a presidential campaign. Is that part of your plan, you think?
That's part of my plan.
And then what's going to happen after that? You'll go to the convention?
I hope to elect
and then you want to work in the government?
Maybe.
Or do you want to go to school?
I might just take a year off, actually, and just kind of enjoy just watching the sunrise.
You're going to have to be very tired to do that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. If there are any people you'd like to hear and topics you'd like us to explore, please let me know. You can write to me at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or you can go to the website at cuny.tv and click on Contact Us. I look forward to hearing from you.